everyone, and welcome to this episode of Writers Infusion. I'm your host, Susan. I'm here today with Dave, Ed, Julie, and our special guest critiquer, Jennifer S. Brown, a local author who is here with us today to help us critique. We're really happy to have her with us. Jennifer wrote Modern Girls, which is a great book. It takes place in the 30s. It'll be posted right underneath this episode, so you can go right to Amazon and take a look. So thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we'll get right to the story. It's a memoir, and it was submitted from Maine by Erin Oldham. Erin Oldham or Erin Oldham? I'm so sorry. And Julie's going to read the story. Memoir.
Memoir, The Ups and Downs of Cycling by Erin Oldham. Summary. This is a middle excerpt from a hybrid memoir/self-help guide on love and relationships. Title, Love's Puzzle. Each chapter combines personal experience, relationship and neuroscience research, and anecdotes. This chapter is about the final collapse of my second rebound marriage. Dating comes next. Chapter title, Forced, Mismatches, and Missed Matches. He was chasing invisible opponents up the mountain. I was chasing invisible demons inside my head. Damn it, that king just took it away from me. Who's the king? Some guy out of Yarmouth. Oh, you mean a biker. He took what away from you? Cyclist, Erin? King of the mountain. Oh, I tried to keep from rolling my eyes. His journey took him to the edge of his capability and to the edge of my patience, racing up steeper and steeper hill climbs, trying to capture King of the Mountain status on the Strava app on his phone. All you had to do was start the app as you began the climb. Your speed was compared to the men and women who had used the same app on the same stretch of hill before you. I imagined him whipping the phone out of his back pocket the second he got to the top. Did I do it? Am I king of the hill? Yes! A ding alerting him of his demotion often arrived during the ride home. The king is now king of the mountain. At his best, or his worst, mainly according to me, he would dash back within hours to the same spot, sometimes again and again, to reclaim his fame. Words not meant for me were seeping through the 100-year-old floorboards of the dining room. Flim flam.
Darn.
What now, darn? I leaned my head into the stairwell leading to the basement. Steve, you okay? I can't get this darn chain on. Do you need help? Erin. Exasperated, he said, No, of course I don't need any help. Okay, done. I'm so glad my time listening to him curse in the basement is coming to a close. I had announced my intentions for divorce just 2 weeks earlier. There were so many items that were affixed with only curse words in that basement. I agreed to his plea. I would sit down with the relationship therapist and discuss the undiscussable one more time. They were both looking at me. They, Steve and the therapist, wanted to know my intentions. They probably meant about divorcing the guy sitting next to me. However, I stuck to other more logistical topics as long as I could. I get it. I know this race is really important to you, Steve. Obviously, the timing sucks, but you have no other options, and I have no other choice, so I'll bring you down the mountain. The mountain on the divorce limbo agenda, Mount Washington, is only open to cyclists twice a year, once for a practice run and once for the real deal, a mountain hill climb race. The pre-divorce plan was to stay at Steve's sister's condo in North Conway with my 3 children, and for all of us non-racers to wait at the finish line on the top of the mountain to drive Steve back down. The mountain is too steep and too dangerous to descend by bike. The last part is challenging even to walk up at a 22%, grade. The race is known as one of the toughest climbs in the world for cyclists. You are banned from coming down alone. In the post-divorce announcement flurry, he couldn't find anyone else to escort him to the bottom. Hours before the race was to start, I bolted up from the musty beige couch in the mountainside condo. It was 3 a.m. Anger seeped in. What am I doing here again? My purposely calm repose was broken. The light coming up the basement stairs had been piercing through my eyelids for hours, and I couldn't take it anymore. One might think of turning off the light. I didn't. I thought it must have been left on intentionally by Steve. I was trying to stay out of his way and let him prepare for the big race. I was trying to be nice, just enough to maintain some of my tiny fortune and a bit of my dignity. He and I were to enter serious divorce negotiations directly after this trip, and I didn't want to lose. I surmised that Steve was sleeping in the basement, mentally and physically preparing himself for the hill climb up Mount Washington. As it turns out, he wasn't in the basement at all. He was on the second floor above me. I had no way of knowing. By that point, we communicated, only to avoid communicating. Steve rushed to pull his bags together. We were aiming for a 6 a.m. arrival. We pulled into the base parking lot just before 7 a.m. after a tense car ride. All eyes straight ahead, arms crossed and no talking. The lot was full of cars, but surprisingly empty of riders. I pulled over to the side of the aisle to let him go. Steve pulled his bike off the top of the car. "Steve, so I'll meet you at the top." "Yeah." He turned, ready to walk away. "Steve, how will I know where to find you?" "Erin, just pull over to the side right below the summit. It's not a big deal. Everyone does it." "But, Erin, I don't have time for this." "Fine." Eyes now released from the prohibition to rolled away. He was in panic mode. He rolled his bike away from the car, head down, absorbed in his preparation. "This is what I have to do. This is not where I want to be. Suck it up, Erin. We're almost at the end." I stared at the shadows of the riders that invaded the pavement as they rode past on the narrow winding road at the top of the mountain. "Where is he?" I muttered to myself. I held my hand up to shade my eyes from the sun to search for him. The cyclists snaking their way up the mountain pass had slowed it to a trickle. I turned my attention to my 10-year-old triplets, hopping from rock to rock atop a leveled-off area off the road where our car was jammed to one side, precariously balanced over as far as I felt I could go. Steve said we'd be okay up here. "Be careful, guys," I aimed at the triplets. They were unconcerned. He was not their father. He was another one of their mother's dubious plans. Each time a cyclist came into my peripheral vision, I searched their bike jerseys for the skull that should be emblazoned on their chests. The small group of lead racers had passed me first, next a larger group of unbelievably strong racers, then a steady stream of terribly strong cyclists continued for a while. I went back to the car to check the time again. My phone was off. It was being saved for emergencies. It had been almost an hour since the time when he estimated he would ride past me in a triumphant show of force. Unseen to me, everything had come screeching to a halt at the bottom of the mountain minutes after I drove away. His shiny new chain was stuck. The week before the practice run, which was the same week as the week after I asked for a divorce, he searched for equipment to strengthen his bike to ensure the imagined victory in his head. His modus operandi, when things went awry, was to order and spend in order to fill himself up. After his first divorce, he spent thousands of dollars souping his low-end red Saab convertible with so many bells and whistles that it was harder and pricier to fix. Shiny silver tailpipe, equally shiny rims, and the pièce de résistance, a computer chip to turboize your ride. Okay, going turbo on open highway was actually pretty fun. Although he made it faster and potentially cooler, he ended up having to sell it for far less than the Blue Book value. In his compulsion to have the best of the best for the race, in light of the second divorce looming large, he ordered a sleek bike chain. The night before the race, he forced the chain on. In his haste to get to the top of the mountain, his very first move on the bike was to slam his right foot against the clip, offsetting the chain, now stuck. With bike mechanics standing all around to assist him, he proceeded to shove and rail against the chain until it snapped. With no backup, he was finished before he began. This was no doubt a heartbreaking reminder of his failure 4 years earlier on the same mountain. He couldn't cycle to the top that time either. He wasn't strong enough. Race over, he drove, dejected, to the coffee house in town where he doused his disappointments with available women on Match.com. That was the precise moment I got caught in his web, when I accepted his invitation to meet. "Hey, Erin, I like your profile. Wine sometime?" "Hi, Steve. Your profile was hysterical. Thanks for writing. Sure, wine sounds great. When? Where?" "Erin, how about the wine bar on Wharf Street? Tuesday, 7 p.m. And I promise you I'm a good guy, not an axe murderer or anything." Birth and death on the mountain exactly 4 years apart. Match.com was the online stomping ground for hookups, desperate divorcees, and willing men and women. Mainly they were willing to say anything to get a date, anything to provide themselves with validation of their existence and confirmation that they will be whole again, given had a good time.
Thank you, Julie. You did a good job reading his lines. You know, how annoyed he sounded.
Oh, I tried. I have a Steve, and he sometimes gets annoyed.
Really?
Although there were a few curse words. you
Yes,
skipped over.
I did. The F word is there. I couldn't read it. You can see it online.
So I actually have a lot. I have so much that I want to say that I don't know where to start on
Okay.
this piece.
Start at the very
And I
beginning.
know, so I'll just pick one thing for now. divorce is always very complicated, and I think it's always a very interesting subject. Every single divorce is different. So I am interested in that from that perspective, and we can definitely tell that memoir, so that you're angry, definitely, that comes across here. So the first thing I want to bring up is there's a scene in here where the kids are jumping around. There's no indication at all through this how this is affecting the kids at all. There's just one little sentence that says, this happens to hit me first because I come from a divorced family, so that's why I'm bringing it up first. But there's no, it says, at the bottom of page 4, she's telling her kids to be careful. They were unconcerned. He was not their father. He was another one of their mother's dubious plans. So whether, children always play a role in a story like this. You've got triplets, and whether this person that's in their life is someone that's they care about or that they don't like, it still is offering some kind of stability. And if this person is leaving after their father left or whatever happened, they are going to act it out. I mean, they're all riding in the car to drop him off and no one's saying a word. The kids aren't trying to make them talk to each other, or they're not saying, there's nothing going on. So because there's no mention of how you feel about your children, it's very hard for me to feel empathy towards you, even though I can see that it seems like your husband was kind of a jerk. So I get that part, and I get that you were angry and frustrated, but because there's nothing else, a concern, or even, I don't know, I just don't feel that. And I think that's, to me, that's really important when I'm reading a story like this. I want to feel empathy for the character. And I might not always agree. I mean, maybe I think, you're being a jerk sometimes, or the other, and that's okay. But I still want to feel some emotion here more than just the anger towards your husband.
I don't know that I agree with that. I actually feel like it's not the kid's story right here. First of all, I think that, obviously in 6 pages we don't get everything. I think the idea of the hybrid memoir self-help could be really marketable. Like, I think that's something that's definitely out there. And of course, by doing this, we don't get to see everything there. And I, while I feel that, there's some anger here, I also feel there's culpability on her point. And I don't feel that she's complete. I mean, she's the one who wants this divorce. She's the one who's sort of pushing back. And I think it's much more complex. And I actually I liked a lot about this. I thought it was really interesting. And maybe because I'm not a child of divorce, that didn't strike me. So I think that's a lot of you bringing, people, whoever's reading it is going to bring in their own point of view. So I think that's something you have to be really aware of. For me, what I thought was really fascinating was some of the stuff got sort of skated over a little bit. I thought that if we started with the race and used the race as more of a framing device, it would have been great. So for instance, when they're in that basement and he can't get the chain on, that's the chain from the story, from the race later on.
Right.
And I feel like we sort of skate over it. It's something that could be so powerful, and it doesn't feel powerful where it is. It's like, oh, la, 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 and then I got to the part, I'm like, that's the reason, it was that night before. So for me, that's where I felt I wanted a little bit more.
Well, the whole first page, I didn't even know what was taking place.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they were in a
No idea.
basement.
Right.
I found a lot of this very confusing.
Yeah.
When and where are they? I mean, the first thing, damn it, the
I
king
had
just
no-
took away from me. It's like, who's saying this? Who's the king?
I
Who
had to
says
write
that?
that in.
Some guy out
Right, I
there.
wrote attribution.
Who says that?
Who's speaking, I
Right.
agree. I
His
agree.
journey. Who's he?
And what's the journey?
Right.
Right.
The Strava app. What's the Strava app?
Well, that they explain, and I did question that at
Yeah,
first.
that's
but-
But is he physically going up the mountain, or is he playing an app or a video game?
Not
I
sure.
didn't know.
Not sure.
I was very unsure about that whole first section.
Yeah,
I
and
had
then,
a
and then the
conversation
structure of
with
it was
my
very
father.
confusing. So, in the first thing, I have no idea where they are or when they are.
None.
I have no idea where it's taking
Right.
place. The second scene, she's hearing him from the basement, which,
But
when
he's
you
not
get to
there.
it later on, you find out that this is the night before the race. He's trying to put the chain on.
Right.
We have no idea, because we have no context. The next section, the first paragraph, is about sitting down with, I have no idea how many people to talk with a therapist. Say, I would sit down with a relationship therapist. Well, it's not just a relationship therapist, because he's there too. So and then they were both looking at me, they probably meant about divorcing the guy sitting next to me. So are there 3 people there?
Well, she's trying to be not catty, what's the word? Snide. You know, well, just if you look at that one piece on page 2, I started off where I didn't know where it was taking place. When I read the second section, I thought maybe they were, you know, he was in the basement and she was at the top. And then I had announced my intentions for divorce just 2 weeks earlier. That is a pivotal scene. And all she says was she announced
Yep.
it.
Right.
And then when they're
Parenthetically.
sitting down with the therapist, and I think she was
It's
trying
6
to
lines.
Right.
I mean, that's a scene.
That's a huge
Yes.
scene.
That's a
And not
scene.
only
And it's only
that.
6 lines, and it
it's a
segues
paragraph.
right into
Right.
the mountain.
And this is and it should be a scene with back and forth, and instead it's, I mean, you know, these are 2 big things, because if you see her asking for divorce, you'll learn so much about the 2 of them. And if someone is learning about divorce or self-help, maybe seeing another couple going through that might help them. Maybe they want to get divorced and they don't know how someone went through it or got through that moment. So seeing how that play-by-play came between the 2 of them might help that person reading the book how to approach that.
I did question that too, but I also questioned, because we are looking at a middle chapter, I did ask, like, do we see this on the page? Is it perhaps in a previous chapter? 'Cause I wasn't clear
Maybe.
if this was sort of a standalone, like if Steve was this one chapter, or if Steve was from previous chapters as well. So I think that's one of the problems you have with reading the middle of a book.
That's so interesting, because in the summary it says, this chapter is about the final clause of my second rebound
Right.
marriage. Is it second parentheses rebound, or this is the second of
Yeah.
2 rebound marriages?
Right.
And I
I
want to
didn't
know
understand
from
what
where the
that phrase
kids,
meant.
which marriage the
Right.
kids
What
come.
second
And dating
rebound
comes next,
marriage?
will that be the very next chapter, or
Right.
do we go on?
Well, they're 10 years old, and she's been with Steve for...
4 years.
We don't know, we do know.
Four
4
Sorry, I
years.
missed that.
In the very end, she talks about,
Right. And that first line, you know how I didn't know where she was. You
Hmm.
said you didn't know. When, for some reason, when he says, "Damn it, to King," I had no idea what to King
Mhm.
was.
Yes.
I
Right.
was
Oh,
like
yeah.
you, is it an app, is it a place, is it, I
Right.
don't, and it sounds
No,
like it's a
we
person.
sort of back into
Which
that.
I'm
it's like
seeing
an-
now when we're reading
An
it
avatar
again.
online,
Right.
persona.
I mean, it should be, damn it, you know, William took it away, like a person.
I'm
That's what
also
he's trying to
curious, in the summary it says that each chapter combines what Jennifer just alluded to. Personal experience, got that, relationship and neuroscience research, and anecdotes. Where's the research? Will there be a section, each chapter starts with the actual happenings, and then there's research, and then there are anecdotes? Are there anecdotes, and the research falls at the end? Is there research attached to this? Is there research here I'm not noticing? I really would love to know how it's structured.
You know what I
And
think?
No,
also-
I
And also, the very last thing that we read is how they meet.
I cut this at some point, by the way, because it was too long. I
Oh.
don't remember what was after this.
Okay.
Oh,
But
so you
still,
cut what was
it
sent
doesn't-
to us, oh.
No, I just can't remember what
I
she said
wonder.
next.
I don't understand why select this particular order to present things. I mean, okay, I'm
Oh,
a dull guy.
it needs work.
I mean, I'm a
Well,
dull
Memoir-
guy,
no,
so
you are not. Stop that.
chronological order works for me every time.
Yeah, me too.
And I would think there would have to be some reason to depart from chronological order to want to do it differently, but I don't see what the difference is. I don't see how, I mean, sometimes, you know, you take things out of chronological order, it's for a particular purpose and you can
Right. Or
understand.
you're thinking back or
But I
something.
don't get it, because this I just find confusing. I mean, why not start with how they met? Okay, she's on a rebound marriage.
Yes.
He's just completed a divorce, you know, after
No, he lost the
spending
race.
thousands of dollars. Yeah, right.
He lost the race.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'll get a new girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
This is a marriage made in heaven. 2 completely self-indulgent, selfish individuals, each with their own agenda, neither thinking about the other person. It's remarkable.
Or the triplets.
The triplets are like, oh yeah, get in the back.
On the
Yeah,
mountainside.
get in the back, they're jumping on
Playing-
rocks.
Playing out.
I have.
Be careful, guys, I aimed at the triplets.
Yeah, the general direction.
Yeah, she
Well,
shot,
that's just-
she shot a barrage of words.
That's
Yeah, this
just
is-
trying to be fancy with your writing.
Yeah, and I actually changed it to set.
It's
Right,
it's supposed to
actually, I
be
did mark it, I should've.
hyperbola, humorous hyperbole, over-expression to bring humor. I get none of it. It is self-indulgent, it's sarcastic ridicule all the way through the story. The guy has absolutely no value to her whatsoever, nor did he ever She never once mentions that he was at one point a
of
part of her
her
life,
life,
and he was a jerk, and and she resents it, and she's a jerk. And they sat down, the one thing that, I'm sorry to get, hours before the races that I bolted up what am I doing here again? The bottom line of that trip is, at this point, neither seemed too concerned about the breakup. He was race-oriented, she was concerned about losing negotiations for the divorce. I don't like either one.
Right.
You know,
The
Neither
one
one
kindness
is
I
just-
see is that she offered, that she kept her promise that she would take him to the top of the mountain.
Oh, okay.
And then, who else would do it? You're staying in his sister's condo. How about his sister? I didn't understand
Yeah,
that.
well, the most pretentious part of all is the title. Hybrid Memoir, Self-Help Guide on Love and Relationships. It includes experience, relationship, and neuroscience research and anecdotes.
well, that might be cut off.
Please. That would be a research tome this big.
All right, so I'm gonna.
Well,
I think you're thinking something more, I mean, I think a self-help book is not, doesn't
Maybe
make it a
there are
research.
sidebars or-
Yeah.
Do you think this person is capable of giving
And there
self-help?
might be
I found this interesting.
annotation. I'm curious how it's, I wish we had some of the research
I
to see
really- I
how
really-
big a chunk is in each
This-
chapter.
I would read more, I want to read more.
Unfortunately, and I may be shot at as I leave the library, this may fall down along gender lines. I don't like either of these people, and I wouldn't read 3 pages, let alone 250 pages, on her discovery of how to do something, because she's screwed up twice already. Forget it.
And I think that maybe you're right, because I actually found that while, yes, she's screwed up and maybe at parts isn't likable, I thought she was relatable. I mean, maybe that's just,
I saw none of it.
who I am, but she's someone who I'm really like, tell me more, I want to hear more.
Really?
Yeah,
Sienna totally wasn't like that.
no.
I got
No,
nothing.
I mean, and again, we
I
all
do.
bring our personal to this, but
more.
no, maybe if we saw the scene where, even if you started this where she approached him and said, I want a divorce. And even
Yes.
from that conversation, you can get an idea of what they're both like.
Yep.
And that's highly emotional, so even if she is very angry, she's still, part of it would be sad or maybe feeling that she hadn't.
This was
she
just
had-
cold.
It was cold.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was cold, and not, leaving out the kids and not, caring about what this might do to the kids, and just dismissing it like that.
She
Plus,
wanted to win the negotiations.
But I think that's realistic, I mean, you.
But there's
you
no
do
other
these
emotion
things.
here but some anger and sarcasm. There's
The
nothing.
thing about, okay, this isn't just a memoir, okay? This is supposed to be something to help other people, and I don't see it. I don't
That's a
see-
good
I don't
point.
I don't see how this anecdote would pertain to other situations.
Yeah, it's not a formula.
Well, we
for
don't know what
success.
happens next, I mean, it's only 6 pages,
Well, that's
so we
true.
don't know
Well, that's,
where it
that's
goes.
actually,
So that's not really completely.
my last comment was, no idea where this is going.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea where this is going. I mean, it could be that the very next sentence is, I rose phoenix-like from the ashes of this relationship and had a revelation about what does and doesn't work in male-female relations. That could be the next sentence, in which case, sweet, this is really going to work out.
This is what I learned from my.
But it-
Right,
yeah,
well,
but
not only,
somehow, I don't know.
Yes.
but the other thing too is, if you want people to relate to this, so this is a self-help guide on love and relationships, right? And if it's about someone who got divorced, then obviously a lot of people who have gotten divorced are gonna read this, and they're gonna wanna be able to identify it with her and learn from it. And if she's not expressing all the different feelings that other people are going to feel going through a divorce, then people aren't going to identify with her. Now, in fairness to her, she might do that in another chapter, I have no idea. But this is kind of the culmination of it. She's talking here about, when she told him and all, and maybe it did take place, you're right, maybe I had announced my intentions 2 weeks earlier, it took place in the previous chapter, and maybe we learn all that. From this alone, I cannot empathize with her, and I wouldn't want to read more, because I just don't feel like she's showing, like Dave said, she's cold. She's not showing enough
Mhm.
of the different emotions that people feel when they're going through a divorce.
I definitely think she could have more in here, but I'm going to agree to disagree with you.
No, that's totally
But I
fine.
definitely, I mean, I think that, this needs to be reworked, and I said, I think it needs, I think framing device, I think there are more things that can be done with this. But I'll just leave it at that, I disagree.
Well, it would be very interesting to see if that, for example, if that scene was
Mm-hmm.
before this, or what was going on before this, or if that was all she talked about with regards to that chapter of her life, I don't know.
If I could,
And we have 2 minutes, just. so
just
you
a
know.
technical matter, the bike chain. I'm assuming if it's an unorganized bike ride, my Steve rides in the Pan Mass Challenge 200-mile bike
Mhm.
ride, there are mechanics, there are parts
Yes, she
trucks.
mentioned
She's
that.
mentioned
They're
that.
mechanics,
I didn't
but there
understand that.
must have been the mechanics were just
understand
watching
it
and he broke it further and it wasn't usable. But there must have been, I'm assuming there was a replacement chain or another bike, I don't know, but he's just stuck there and she has her phone turned off. It may be that he tries to contact her and she thinks at some point, I'll turn my phone on, or he contacts someone at the top of the mountain. I
But
don't
by
think
the
that it
way,
just
about that
fell
whole
flat.
scene,
Yes.
page 5 of
Yes.
6, she was saying the chain jammed and he ignored them all and did all this. How did
Yes.
she know? She wasn't there for
I
the
know,
entire
good
thing.
point, good
So
point.
did someone else tell her
Convey.
everything that
I
just
need someone
happened?
to
Because
convey that to
how
her.
would she have
That's a
any
good point.
idea?
It's true, at that point in the story.
Omniscient.
she didn't know.
Omniscient.
No, it
Or
could be
or-
very easy. It could be so-and-so was there and told me afterwards. It
Yes.
might be a one
Or
sentence.
he told her after the race.
Yeah, or he, right, so.
One of the twins sneaked off from the
That's
rock.
right, one of the twins. Triplets.
Triplets.
Triplets, sorry, triplets. Don't forget
There were
the
3
third.
jumping on the rocks.
When I read triplets, I was like, oh my God.
I know. It's hard to get
Congratulations.
past that for a minute, just to think that there are 3 of them. Anyway, and by the way, I also wrote this comment in the last page, when he was texting her about meeting her for the first time, and I promise you, I'm a good guy, not an axe murderer or anything. I was wondering if someone would really write
Yeah,
I
that.
did
who else-
that
who says
too.
that?
I thought that
It's
was
on
all a
the
little
last page.
cliche, that whole
Yes.
little magic
Yes.
part.
Maybe
Not
he
the best thing to
did,
read.
Because I'd run in the other direction.
Not the best thing to lead with.
right.
And right after that, birth and death on the mountain exactly 4 years apart. What death? The death of his riding career?
thought so.
Come on.
The relationship.
Yeah, really,
Oh,
their
marriage,
relationship.
thank you.
It was their relationship.
Yeah.
Thank
The
you,
birth
thank you.
Maybe.
I misread that.
Okay,
Right.
well,
Oh.
we have
We
differing
have to put on
opinions.
knives over there.
I know, we do.
That was the other
It's
story.
nice when you have,
Oh, you need a, yeah, this is,
Yes.
it's, I forget what I was gonna say.
Okay, so let me try to summarize. Jennifer said she'd definitely read more.
yes.
I'd be interested in knowing what happened before if that divorce scene, when she asked for a divorce, did really happen. Because I think if you're just concentrating on this chapter, add some more emotion, think about everything that we said, to make her think about the emotion, all the different emotions that she might be feeling, because that will help other people relate more. And that's something I would think, and I don't know if I cut off the other piece about the anecdotes, and if I did, I apologize. We can take a quick look at
And the
that off
research.
camera.
Carol's.
So, hopefully this helped, and that's it. Thank you for submitting.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions afterwards, then you can let us know. We also all marked up the pages. So, thank you, Jennifer, for being here.
Thanks for having me, this is so much
Great to have
fun.
Oh,
you.
good.
Great.
Really helped.
Thanks everyone else for coming, and we'll see you the next episode of Writers Infusion. We'll keep writing.